Good afternoon, everyone. This is Cassandra Moore with the Tropical Analysis and Forecast branch, bringing you your weekly marine weather briefing for today, Thursday, May 11th, valid through Tuesday, May 16th. So here is the surface analysis from this morning, and you can see it's pretty quiet across all basins today. In the Atlantic, we do have a stationary front extending from a low north of the area to the central Bahamas. However, no hazardous weather conditions are associated with this boundary, and high pressure is dominating elsewhere today. And just to repeat, summary of the hazards for the next 5 days, there are no wind or swell hazards in the Atlantic, Caribbean, or Gulf Basin for the next 5 days. Moving on to the wind and waves forecast. This is the 24-hour forecast valid for tomorrow morning. And the only thing notable on this wind wave chart is the fresh winds that are noted in the western Gulf of Mexico, and this is going to continue to allow for hazy conditions in the southwest Gulf of Mexico due to agricultural fires over Mexico. Otherwise, there's an area of fresh to strong winds offshore Colombia that's generating an area of seas around 8 to 10 feet in the Caribbean Sea. And in the Atlantic, the cold front is slowly moving into the central Atlantic, still stretching a stationary boundary towards the central Bahamas. However, no hazardous winds are behind this boundary. By Saturday, May 13th, high pressure is going to begin to build behind that stationary boundary, tightening the pressure gradient across the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea, and this will result in an area of fresh to locally strong winds in the western Gulf of Mexico, which will raise seas up to 8 feet. As well as in the Caribbean Sea, an area of fresh to strong winds is noted in the Gulf of Honduras and offshore Colombia, and this will also raise seas up to 8 feet in those areas of strong winds. As for the stationary boundary that now stretches to the central Bahamas, the low forming along the boundary will not be associated with any hazardous winds. Winds will remain moderate speeds or less. For Sunday, the stationary boundary is now starting to lift north, and the pressure gradient has weakened across the Gulf of Mexico, allowing for only an area of moderate to fresh winds in the southern Gulf. And in the Caribbean Sea, a larger area of moderate to fresh winds is noted across the central and eastern Caribbean, and this is also reflected in the wave heights reaching 6 to 8 feet across most of the central Caribbean. By Monday, conditions across all basins have really began to settle. Easterly trade winds dominate most of the Atlantic basin, and only a small area of moderate to fresh winds exists in the south central Caribbean. Otherwise, conditions are quiet. And the favorable marine conditions continue in the Gulf of Mexico and the southwest Atlantic into Tuesday, May 16th, with only the remnants of a frontal boundary just north of the area producing an area of fresh winds. That's it for today's Tropical Atlantic Marine Weather Briefing. The next weather briefing will be Sunday, May 14th, out by 5 p.m. And if you have any questions, you can always see our latest graphics and more information at www.hurricanes.gov/marine. Thank you for tuning in.